we are definitively the bad guys. In front of us, this pretty former church building in 601 Esplanade Avenue was erected in the early 20th century on the site of a slave pen where human beings would be bought and
New
sold.
Orleans and
If you've ever read the book or seen the movie 12 Years a Slave, slave pen where Solomon Northup, the author of that memoir, found himself getting sold into slavery in New Orleans in 1841. It's the one that stood where that pretty former church is. This memoir is still considered to be one of the best sources we have of the ways in which the slave markets were actually operating in that time period, from the perspective of somebody who found himself on the wrong side of the auction block. The Marigny neighborhood on our right was established in 1805 by Jean-Bernard Xavier Philippe and the Marigny de Mandeville. Of course, we call Bernard Marigny for short because this is a half-hour tour. Incredibly wealthy man. He's credited with introducing the game of craps to the United States. We call that game craps. It's a variation of an older English game called hazards or pressure luck. Bernard learned that game while he was in boarding school in England because he was a bit of a troublemaker as a kid. His parents backed him off there to try and straighten him out. He learned that dice game, brought it back here, and started playing with his friends. When you're playing dice on a sidewalk like a proper miscreant, you tend to squat down. And squatting, you kind of look like a frog or a toad. So the locals all started calling that dice game the game of toad, which in French is le jeu de crapaud. I kind of butchered that French R right there. And the French endings for words, that second person plural, A-U-D, hard to remember all of them. So the Americans just drop all the French endings off of the word, add the English plural ending, stop rolling the R in. That's how we get the name of that dice game. Bernard is such a prolific gambler. It's his version of the game. We played today, we call it that name because none of us can say the French word. That's right. It only took him 7 years to burn through so much of his family fortune. He was forced to subdivide and sell off one of the family farms, which is how we got the Marigny neighborhood. But he had a pretty good sense of humor about it. He named one of the streets in the neighborhood after his favorite dice game, which didn't go over so well with the half dozen churches that later built on the street. By 1851, enough churches were on the street, they got together and petitioned the city to have the street name changed. Now, what used to be Rue de Craps is Burgundy Street. Burgundy, yeah. Which is how we pronounce Burgundy when we're talking about the street. Burgundy is the wine and the place in France. Burgundy is the street. Why? Because we have to be at least a little bit confusing around here, otherwise everybody might figure out what we're doing.